Hello. In this lesson, we'll take some of the things we've learned in the first chapter and we'll apply them detailing out the interior of a drill. If you'd like to follow along, please go into your sample file folder, chapter 1, and open up the file named drill body. So when the file first opens, we just have sort of this plain looking shape here. It's the start of an exterior of a drill. And the first thing we're going to do is split this thing down the middle. So I'll select it, and then I'll choose plane, cutting plane, type 0 for the start of the plane, and then I'll go down to the front. I'm just going to drag out this way. Go back to my preview. Now remember earlier in chapter 1 we did set my back face setting so they always show this bright green color. This is the normal side of my surface, and this is the back face of my surface. And that becomes important as you're doing booleans. So if I select the drill and do a Boolean difference, it cuts the way I want it. Typically, the back side of the surface is what disappears. So if I were to take this and using the Analyze Direction command, flip this, so that now this is the front side, and this has the green applied. So if I select this, do a Boolean difference using this, now you can see this half remains and that portion is deleted. Go ahead and undo a few times and get that back so the normals are flipped. Now Boolean's kind of nice. There's also a split Boolean command, so I can select the drill again and go up to split Boolean. And that doesn't look like it's done anything, but what it will do is split the object. It actually leaves behind the cutting plane. So let me just delete that. So now the drill is split into two pieces. Quite often when you're doing a Boolean command, you do end up wanting to keep both pieces, so this allows you to do that. So now I can just take that object and delete it. So we want to work on the interior of this drill, adding some detail into it, but obviously we can't get to the interior at this point. So we're going to go ahead and apply the shell command, and remember that's under the toolbar. So we'll select that, and we'll do a thickness of 1.5 millimeters. See if it'll take that. Select the surface I'd like to delete. There we have it. Our drill now has a material thickness of 1.5 millimeters. All right, so we're going to add a little more detail in here. First thing we're going to do is make the hole at the end here. We want to make a nice round hole in the end. So I'll click the round hole option. So it's asking us to select the target surface. We're going to put a hole right in this end here. Even though we've cut it in half, it'll work just fine. Now you can see as I zoom in that the object wants to go normal to the C-plane, or our working plane. We want to change that around. So we'll click on direction, and we want it to be surface normal. That means it's normal to this surface that we selected. You can see that flips that cylinder so that it's on its edge now. And we can snap to a point in the middle. As soon as I click that, it starts to show me what's going on. Now we could have this so it goes all the way through the object and we'll cut a hole in this back wall, but that's not what we want. So we'll just click through equals no. And we just need to make sure the depth is greater than 1.5 so that it cuts a hole all the way through here. And once I have that, I can just go ahead and click. You see that cuts a nice hole in there for us, and it cleans up the edges, make sure it's a solid still. We can start adding some other detail in here now. Be handy to add a few ribs in here. Let's go to the top viewport. Let me shade this. So we're looking into the body of the drill. And I'll draw some ribs. Might want to have one here, let's say. And I'll take this and I'm going to bring that over, copy it. Let's say we might perhaps have one back here. And then there's probably some batteries or something we need to hold in this area. So we'll add a rib in this area as well. Now, depending on the design, we may or may not want those directly on this edge. And if we want them in a little bit, then we can just take them, hold down the Control key to activate elevator mode, and then we can just drag them down. You could also take these curves and switch on gumball, and then just drag the blue down as well. Whichever way you like, they both work the same. If I switch on my solid toolbar now from the top tabs, let's go ahead and apply the rib command. We'll click on rib. There's my planar curve, and I click inside the object to make a boundary. You can see the rib went the wrong direction, so that lets me know that I need to switch my projection type. Select the object, press rib again, change the offset, and then click inside the boundary. And now it's added the rib in there for me just perfectly. I'll go ahead and apply that to the rest of these. And you can see on these ones, it's actually got an uncut hole in there, which is obviously not what we want. So let's go ahead and undo that. Okay, so we've added the rib in this area. Let's go ahead and add these ribs up here. And let's make those a 1.5 millimeter size. And click here. Let's change projection. As you can see, those are cutting holes in the actual surface. Let's try a couple other settings on this and see if we can get them to work. So we know that we have to use the incurve plane. Let's try a tapered mode and we'll give it a 3 degrees of draft. Still not working. Let's give it a slightly different thickness, see if that'll help us out. Let's switch that back to straight. And we'll try that one last time there. Nope, still not going to work. Well, sometimes when these don't work, you have to use workarounds. And one of the workarounds for this is actually to right-click on the explode object. I'm just going to pull this surface away from the actual rest of the object. So now it's just this surface here. And let's see if we can get this to work when it's just on the surface. It seems like it's having some sort of trouble maintaining this as a solid while it's working. So let's reapply the rib command. Instead of using the entire poly surface as the boundary, we just have this surface that we pulled out. So let's see if we can get that to work. Yep, you can see that time it did work. We know that we're going to have a motor of some kind going through here. So we're going to actually go ahead and cut a circle in this. So we're going to choose cylindrical. I'll choose the midpoint. Let me go into the right view. I don't want the center of that cylinder to be on this. I want the center of the cylinder to be on this portion. So I'll apply the cylinder again. I have my center snap on. And if I just float over here, you can see it wants to snap the center point of this arc. So now if I go into the right view, it's all going to be concentric. So we'll do that. And we'll drag this part down through here. And stop that just there. Pull that back just a little bit this way. And then we'll do a Boolean difference using the cylinder. You have to join this and this back together again. And now I can do a Boolean difference. There we go. So we've cut an area in this for a large motor of some kind to be going through there. So our interior is looking pretty good. We just want to go ahead and add a few bosses in there. So in the top viewport, I'm just going to go ahead and I'll draw some circles. Draw one, drag it, and tap the Alt key to make a copy of it. There you go, and that should be enough. And let's bring these all down just a little. And I'll use Gumball for that. And now we use the boss command. So we're going to select the planar closed curves, which are these here. Now we do want a draft angle on this. And we'll give that a slightly smaller draft angle of 3. And now the boundary is this surface here. And you can see we have all of our bosses in here. We have a draft on them, so they're going to be able to be pulled out of the mold. And then the last thing we could do is to actually add some holes in these using the make hole command. So we'll select this surface. And obviously we got to make that a little smaller. At a radius of 2 perhaps. See how that looks. Looks pretty good. So that's added a little hole in there for us. And we can just repeat that command for all of these using our center snap to make sure those are all perfectly located. There we go. I select all the curves and we'll just hide those. And we'll switch into rendered shadow mode. You can see what we've been creating is a pretty sophisticated looking part of a model here. So using some of the commands we learned in Chapter 1, we've now detailed out the interior of our drill model. And that'll conclude this exercise on detailing a drill.